citizen, same vision is for equal rights and justice for the people them. What's happening to this beautiful world that we're living in? World citizen, lift up your voices.
Welcome.
Oh, you know we got
Welcome everyone to a special edition of our People-Powered Planet podcast. Each week we have amazing guests from all over the world who are innovative solutionaries. And today our special guest is Shekhar Mehta. Shekhar Mehta is the president-elect of Rotary International for the whole world. He has also been instrumental in being a man of vision, not only figuratively, but literally. Over 50,000 people have had their sight saved by operations at his eye clinics. And the key thing that I'm impressed with Shekhar is that when he takes an impossible situation, he imagines solutions and helps bring them into reality. And so I wanted to start by inviting him to share with us his vision and examples of when he took a situation that might have been seen as impossible and was able to create change by imagining and then carrying out and fulfilling the impossible.
You know, when you want to do things which are a little beyond the normal, and that's what I like to do, I always say, let's dream big. So when you dream big, there are always obstacles that come, but it's important that we overcome those obstacles. There can be impossible situations, but it's always, I found, if the purpose is good, there are always solutions. Gandhi had said, find the goal and the means will follow. And I find whenever there has been a good goal, the means have always followed. And the means could be whatever. It could be resources, it could be people along with you, it will be overcoming the challenges. To me, all of these are means of trying to reach the goal. And there have been not one, but so many situations in our lives. I'll give you an example. When the tsunami had struck the Indian Ocean, and one of the part of our Rotary area district is Andaman Nicobar Islands. And we'd gone there and we wanted to do a lot of service activities. And I had at that time used a lot of shelter boxes, a UK-based charity shelter box, and we used a lot of them. But soon enough, post-tsunami, Indian government stopped all imports of relief material. They said they have to be homegrown. And that led me to start something, an indigenous product similar to what shelter box was. And I started something called the shelter kit. Now, they say necessity is the mother of invention. Here was a situation, we needed things, but we could not get them. So we found a way out, starting it here indigenously. And the result was that by now we have sent out more than 20,000 shelter kits, helping out over the last 15 years, about 100,000 disaster victims across every major disaster in this part of the world. So it was an impossible situation, but if we are sincere about it and we want to find solutions, I think there are always solutions to find.
Good for you. Good for you. There's always solutions. Well, you know, at the end of, we're emerging now from a period where there seems to be deep divisions and strife, and now we're starting to see some shifts in the world toward coming together and for instance, the U.S. coming back into the Paris climate accords and other things. Now, I think back to World War II, when there was an era where the deep division and strife were so bad that they ended up in concentration camps, 50 million people being killed, the world in the depth of despair. And at that time, Rotarians imagined that somehow the nations of the world, as separate as they were, could come together in the United Nations. And Rotarians were key to actually creating the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What role do you envision Rotarians playing today in fulfilling what the Secretary General has called for, a worldwide conversation on the future we want and the Rotary we need? And the UN we need, he said. But also, I'd like to ask you what kind of Rotary we need to begin to actually fulfill that objective of actually finally beginning to eliminate the scourge of war.
Good question, and very well put. Rotary, part of its object has been national understanding, goodwill, and peace. So we are committed to peace in the world. That is our ethos, that's our DNA. Anything we do, the ultimate aim is to achieve peace. At times, positive peace, at times, so the best example of bringing positive peace to me is polio eradication. I mean, imagine 35 years back, 350,000 children were either getting paralyzed for a lifetime or they were dying. This year, last year, the number was less than 150. When it started, it was in 125 countries. Today, it is less than it's in just 2 countries. So if you do a bit of arithmetic, you find 19 million lives, which is about near the First World War, mind you. 19 million lives have been saved. To me, it's as good as averting a world war.
Wow.
That's what I call positive peace. Yeah. So the world needs to move from war to thinking of positive peace. I mean, today, instead of fighting with each other, why don't we fight with poverty? Why don't we fight with illiteracy? Why don't we fight with homelessness? There are so many things to fight for, and which are good causes and which will bring peace. For once, fighting will bring peace in this world. So I think Rotary played an important role there. And, you know, each person, each organization should focus on their core competence. And I think Rotary's core competence is bringing peace, positive peace. The Peace Centers program, we already have an army of 1,400 people who've been trained in conflict resolution. Now, in another 10 years' time, it's going to double. The number is going to get doubled. And imagine these 3,000 very well equipped, very well educated people who are skilled in conflict resolution are going to be in different parts of the world where they may be in a position to even stop wars. Because one of them, or 2 of them, or 5 of them may be at a place where a paper comes in front of them where they have to decide war or no war. So one of these people, if one of them stops a war, I think our program has been worthwhile.
Wow.
Look
That's
at
so beautiful.
look at the programs, the other programs that we do, water, sanitation. You know, to me, I always think if there are people in the world who actually can get peace, it is people like Rotarians. Not only Rotarians, but people like Rotarians who, for example, when I get a heart surgery done for a little child, you know, the parents have waited for 9 months to get their bundle of joy. The child comes into the world and suddenly they, in 5 months' time, they come to know that the child is turning blue. It's a blue baby. It has a hole in the heart. It pierces a hole in their heart. Imagine, Arthur, you or me in our family, if a child had a hole in the heart. I mean, we would be absolutely heartbroken. And Rotary, just in India, for the last 10 years, we have mended those little hearts and families, 20,000 of them.
Wow.
Is it not bringing peace in those 20,000 families?
Yes.
When you save those children from polio, is it not bringing peace into their lives? To me, this is the best way to bring positive peace. So if you think of the positive, over a period of time, the negative will go. Just as you saw, the negative has gone, and US has again become a part of the Paris Agreement.
Great. Great. Well, that's beautiful. I love your concept of positive peace, and I love that you've mentioned that you know, this is equivalent to the number of people killed in a war that are killed by these diseases and so on, and that we've dared to imagine how we can mobilize together into a battlefield for really for the good of humanity rather than against each other. In our you had wrote me and you quoted John Lennon's song "Imagine." You had seen our movie, The World Is My Country, where Garry Davis was proposing that we, the people, kind of create a better way to govern our world. And I was brought to mind, your letter brought to mind the quote from Gandhi, who told the Indian independence leader, C.R. Das, how heartening it is to imagine that when there's one world and no militarized boundaries, that all the natural and human resources, all the science and technology that are today marshaled for an array of destructive purposes, that these will be used for the elimination of poverty, ill health, and ignorance. Now that sounds like what you've just been saying. Do you see a way that Rotarians can actually, not only at the local levels, but also lift us at a global level to beginning to do the kind of thing that Garry Davis was talking about, to construct a world where we can all be solutionaries, solving these problems rather than divided into separate nations warring with each other?
Absolutely. I love what John Lennon had said. I mean, it's so right. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. And Gandhi said the same thing. He said, there is enough in this world for everyone's need, but not enough for even one man's greed. And that's where we need to look. What are we fighting for? I mean, John Lennon even said, imagine there are no countries. It isn't hard to do, and nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. All of these people who are gathered here, these are all dreamers. We dream of a world which is peaceful, where people are not fighting each other, but fighting for each other.
Great.
I mean, it's so important that we try to live for somebody else. To me, the greatest joy that I have achieved in life is the fact that about 10 years, 12 years back, my wife Rashi and I decided that our life we will now spend only for other people, for doing good in this world. So it's a different feeling altogether. There's no greater joy than helping other people. Everybody knows how to live for one's own self, but it's great to live for some other people. I'm just trying to learn to do that. And if only everybody thought of that, what a great thing it would be. So when I see people, about 10 years back, I used to see hordes of people from across the world. Halfway down the world, they would come just to give those 2 drops to children in India. I could understand these are peacemongers. These are people who believe in peace. They come half the world just to see that no child in India is affected by polio. Then they go to Africa to ensure there is water in villages where there is no water. To that lady who hasn't had a meal along with her 3 children for last 2 days, go and ask her what peace is. To her, peace is that piece of bread that you may give her. She's not interested who's at war with whom. So I think there is enough work that you and I have in this world. Half the world does not have enough food. Half the world does not have enough health facilities. Half the world is still illiterate. Half the world still does not have homes. If all our energies from wars, from nuclear, if it could get diverted to positive peace, what a wonderful world this could be.
Well, speaking of positive peace, what did you think specifically of Garry Davis's action and vision toward both Garry Davis, the world citizen #1 that we made the movie about, The World Is My Country. What did you think about his role in actually having the courage to tell all the nations of the world at the UN how we could come together to create a government of, by, and for the people of the world? How did you react to that?
Absolutely. It was lovely. Let me tell you, I was absolutely bowled over by that person, that movie that you showed. I loved it, absolutely. It was great. And I always think when you have such crazy thoughts, people will laugh at you. And when they laugh at you, be sure you are on the right path. When Gandhi thought that he would make India independent, so many would have laughed at him. A half-naked fakir is what people used to call him, because he used to wear only one piece of cloth. And because he said, half my country does not have enough clothes, how can I be wearing 2 pieces of clothes? So sacrifice, personal sacrifice, and a dream, an imagination, a vision which is beyond what normally people would be able to think. And to me, it all starts with a dream, with a vision, So from a dream, when you chisel it with a vision, do you come out with a plan? And that's when you spend your entire life just as Garry Davis did. You have a vision and you want to fulfill that. Amazing story it was. And I think we need many such people in every part of the world to be able to make a difference. At times I find it's such a paradox. The more educated a person is becoming, the more the strife in this world. It's difficult to understand, difficult to fathom that with such great knowledge base, knowing that this is not good, war is no good for anyone, yet there is so much of war in the world even today.
Well, you mentioned that if there's one peacemaker who helps stop a war, that's worth it. And we actually have such a person on the call. Asha was actually in war zones, and maybe during the question period she can mention that, and actually did stop warring tribesmen. But I think this is something that key to what Rotary is all about. Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary, asked in 1940, he said, "Must the best genius of man be devoted to the science of war and none to the science of averting it?" Now today, so much, you mentioned people are educated. So many of the educated geniuses in the world are working on new incredible weapons that can do amazing destructive things, even more destructive, to the level that we literally are just capable of destroying our entire world. How do we begin to get to shift that science of war to a science of peace? As you mentioned, a culture of peace and a science of actually peace engineering. How do we actually engineer peace in our world?
So I read a book called Uncharitable, and it said that what are the biggest problems in the world? Hunger, poverty, illiteracy. And what do we try to do when we want to fight these menaces, these problems? We do not try to get the best minds in the world for that. We try to get the second category people. No wonder we are unable to get rid of this. I would say people who head these charitable organizations should be the highest paid people in the world. Then it's going to attract the best brains. The best brains, when instead of going to profit-making companies, when they start coming to non-profit companies, companies which are interested in doing good for others, organizations which are interested in doing good for others, that's when you will get the best brains. And when those best brains come in, rather than making weapons, they will start making peace. To me, that's one of the steps that we need to take. We need to glamorize the development sector so much by glamorizing it also in terms of the pays that the people receive, so that they take pride not only in the fact that yes, they are duly compensated for the work that they do, because they are doing something which mankind has been fighting for hundreds of years and not been able to remove it.
Wow. So when you were actually president, you're now president-elect, and I understand this fall you'll be president of Rotary International. How do you see implementing the plans for positive peace around the world?
So we already do a great job of it. But you know, one of my slogans everywhere now is for an organization which is 116 years old, which is spread in every part of the world, which has such leaders as, let's say, even the 73 people who are on this call, outstanding leaders, each of you. Each of these people, and we have 1.2 million of such people. We have a legacy of eradicating a disease. It's a big deal, Arthur. We've just eradicated one more disease. Each year somebody gets a Nobel for the medicine, but no disease has gone. The disease is going to go because of the volunteers. The first one went, that was smallpox, and this will go, polio will go. So we have a legacy of a program like polio. I think it's time now for an organization like ours to be able to play a role in nation building. And when I say this, we have started doing just this back home in India. So today, and I'm talking nothing, I'm not reinventing the wheel, we've done it. Polio eradication is a world, in the process of world building, I would say, so to say. Just as there is something that I can do in nation building, so in India, we took up a program that will make India totally literate. What we have not been able to do in 73 years, we want to achieve through Rotary in 74 months. And we have a blueprint for it. The government approves of the blueprint, and we are already midway into it. So that is what I would want. That is the vision that I would have. That is the message I would have for Rotarians, that it's time now that we need to take up programs that change the course of a country. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We've just started a program, children, the literacy program in India. About 250 million children have been sitting at home for the last 1 year. 1 year they haven't gone to schools. But how do they study? Not everybody has access to online studies. And there was no curriculum ready for online studies. So the Prime Minister of India mentioned this on the television. I immediately wrote to him, and in 5 days flat, we got a call from the Education Ministry. In just 1.5 months, Arthur, we provided to them the entire curriculum in audiovisual content to be telecast to more than 100 million children to start with, and then to the entire 250 million children. Because the content was developed by Rotary of very high standards, audiovisual content that we have provided. So what have we done? We have played a role in the education system of India. What I now want is, how about 20 clubs in the US coming together and taking up a similar program in Congo, in Bolivia, in Ecuador, and change the very education system there, bring technology there. It's not expensive. It's possible to do. All it requires is a mind frame that, yes, we will try and do something that others have not even thought of. So I'm hugely inspired by what George Bernard Shaw said. He said, you see things as they are and say, why? I dream of things that never were, and I say, why not?
Beautiful. Well, that is a key question for us. Why not? Well, now, seeing things as they are right now, of course, we see that not only is the military cost the actual number of people killed, like in a world like World War II, with what, 50 to 70 million people, but it's also, as Eisenhower pointed out, the draining of the wealth of society, focusing all our energy and genius of humanity on creating all these weapons of war. And it's also putting the human race on the edge, actually, of actual extermination of our species. It's interesting that even a small war between India and Pakistan could set off such incredible global warming that it could actually threaten to destroy. Well, think about it. The meteor that destroyed the dinosaurs was only 10 miles in diameter. You know, how many dinosaurs could you kill in 10 miles? But the soot that they put into the atmosphere created a global warming effect that cooled the planet. Food couldn't be grown, and the species died. So instead of putting our genius into that, which right now we've got to step forward with this amazing new ban on nuclear weapons that we need to now find a way to enforce. How do we move from that negative to a vision for how maybe Rotary can set the vision of eliminating ecocide and nucleocide, eliminating the threats to humanity rather than just one disease? Can we move on to the even higher impossible dream?
Always. Why not? Why not? A world which is peaceful. Why should not Rotary dream of that world? Absolutely. I totally agree. And I tell you, I've seen, not in person the effect of it, but I'd gone to the museum at Hiroshima. I went to Site 0 where the bomb had fallen. And I tell you, you have shivers when you see that museum. I mean, people just melting down. At the epicenter, the the temperature there was 300,000 degrees centigrade. At 52 degrees centigrade, you will not be able to stand. And here it was 300,000 degrees. That is the heat that is generated. It can wipe out a full-blown war between two nuclear countries, can be a disaster for the entire world. I agree totally. It's for people. They already have these weapons. I think it will be wise for all people to naturally do the disarmament, to try and reduce the nukes that they have or any other weapons that they have. So one thing could be people need to, so I could understand the impact of the World War, and I could see the impact of that nuclear holocaust only because I had gone to Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. I only wish more people see what had happened there. It needs to be shared with other people. People need to understand what the impact of it can be. So maybe the new generation will have to learn about it. All of this will not happen in a day's time. People who have worked over the years, and there are a lot of people whose commercial interests are also involved into it. There are lobbies which will definitely not want to disarm everything. They'll go out of business. So, but you know, when the entire generation comes up thinking that no, this is not a thing that we want and we want peace, that is when changes will start happening. Mm-hmm. I think it's very important that the child at school starts knowing the ill effects of this, educating people about this and creating a mass awareness. Only then I think will we be able to really make changes.
Well, that's so beautiful that you actually went to Hiroshima and it changed it from kind of an intellectual thought to something that you viscerally felt. And that's something we so need. Now, I know there are many key people on this call who've been actually very key in helping to move us toward this this ban on nuclear weapons that's just happened and other things. So I think at this point, let me throw it open to questions because we have so many wonderful people who are part of this call, all I'm sure anxious to jump in and ask short questions, please. We've got a lot of people and only a little bit of time. So keep your question or comment pretty short, and then let's give you a chance to talk with everybody.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom so far. Yes, we have a lot of people wanting to ask questions, and if someone thinks of a question, we might have time to fit you in. You just raise your blue hand. Okay, so Tim P., if you could unmute and ask your question, please.
Thank you, Melanie. Shekhar, thank you very much for being here. You mentioned several times a focus on education. There's a Rotarian, John Tilji Minjo in Kenya, who's developed a peace education program for children of warring tribes down there and found that the violence has decreased. His classes are held outside, and he'd like to build a school and use that as a template for the 8 other countries internationally that he's working with. Is the project that you mentioned of video classes that you helped disseminate with a peace curriculum, is that something that he might be able to incorporate into his peace program, and how would he go about doing that?
So all he needs to do is write a letter to me. Ask him to send an email to me. We will take it forward. We can get the content converted into video format. Once the video format is ready, thereafter it becomes easy to disseminate anywhere in the world.
Thank you very much, Shekhar.
Wonderful. Okay, and now we have David Wick. If you could please unmute.
So Melanie, I love this. You know, any discussion that leads to action is what I love.
Well, greetings. Delight to meet you, Shekhar. And I am the president-elect of the Rotary E-Club of World Peace. So I'll be serving at the same time that you will be. Look forward to that. And for many years, I've also worked with the United Nations with the Declaration and Program of Action of the Culture of Peace. And looking at all things in terms of what we're doing is peace building. And Rotary overall, as you've said, I believe is doing peace building in all the different activities that it is. And Rotary is also, I'm very aware, going through change and evolution from its more traditional mode of operations to what it's becoming. And the idea that you're talking about in terms of glamorizing the development sector to bring more people to really embrace peace building as a central core, as you say, the DNA of Rotary. How do you see how to glamorize that, how to really bring it forward, saying we're all in this. Yes, we did polio, now this peace building in all of its forms, but where do you see putting an emphasis to bring that to the next level in Rotary?
So the day we get the brightest of Harvard scholars coming out to be employed in the development sector, that's when we'll make a change. When the brightest MBS from Kellogg's University comes out, and instead of joining a for-profit tech company, the person is more interested in joining a development sector organization, that is when it will start become glamorized. So where there is pay as well as peace, mental peace of trying to do something good in the world, and it'll have to come out of conversation. When this word spreads out, maybe somebody will catch up this idea. And when this is publicized, maybe it'll catch to other people also. I know of people who have had cushy jobs and they've left those jobs and come back to the development sector trying to do something good. But those were stories once in a while. But what great things it would be when campus placements are for these development sector organizations rather than topmost earning companies in the world.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And now we'll go to Barbara Gon-Mueller.
Thank you. I'm Barbara Mueller, and I'm following David, and I'm the president of the Rotary E-Club of World Peace, and you are fabulous, Shekhar. You are totally the answer I have been praying for, because we have those 35,000 clubs that could bring peace and harmony to our world. My late husband, Robert Mueller, created the World Peace Plan. Nobody pays attention. World peace, what a concept. But I want to honor you and I want to thank you. We have the University for Peace in Costa Rica, which we co-founded, and I just bless you. Now, how can I, as an individual Rotarian, help you? I can think about peace, I can pray for peace, and I can work for peace. But for you, you are our president-elect, and I am so delighted to meet you, and I'm sure I'm speaking for everybody on this call. Thank you.
Let me tell you something, Barbara, and it would be of interest to all of you. This very year, 31st of this month, January, is the last date for nominating any organization for the Nobel Peace Prize. When I was interviewed for the presidentship, the first question they asked me, what is it that you would wish to see happen to Rotary? And my first answer, it's also on the internet, if you go and just Google out that interview, it'll say, I would love Rotary to get nominated for the Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm very happy to tell you, from across the world, there have been umpteen number of nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize for Rotary for this year. Whether we get it or not, that's a separate thing. But I strongly believe for our work in polio itself, we deserve to be nominated and even deserve to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not even counting the Peace Centers program. And why do I say this? The moment this happens, it suddenly brings everyone, all the 1.2 million people start thinking, here is an organization which is working for positive peace. I think it is, but not necessarily everybody does. For them, it may just be another project of eye care when they provide eyes to people. But I look at bringing peace to the person's mind, heart, soul. I mean, imagine yourself or me without eyes, and somebody comes and gives me eyes. Can there be greater peace in my life than that? So it's important. So I just thought, let me just share, here is a group of people who only believes in peace. So it's important. I thought it is an important step for Rotary. And what will be the result? Suppose we get nominated and we do win. It helps more people to join the organization. The focus shifts on peace. We start believing that, yes, we are people who can bring peace. And because one of the biggest institutions in the world, as far as the prizes are concerned, is awarding us for our work in peace, our focus suddenly turns towards working more towards peace.
Yay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love that. Oh my God. Okay, now Richard Denton, you're on.
Thank you very much, Shekhar, for being here today. And also happy Republic Day just yesterday in India.
Yes.
Two quick questions. What do you see as the role for women and girls in creating peace? And then the second question is, as you've just sort of alluded to, Rotary has played a major role at the United Nations with its creation, with the Declaration of Human Rights. And I'm just wondering what Rotary International can do now to create peace in the world at the level of the UN. And as a corollary, you just mentioned Rotary going for the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you see Rotary working with other groups such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, which has got 3 Nobel Peace Prizes?
Absolutely. I totally agree. It's not that we are working towards the prize. We've been working for it for 35 years, but I think we deserve it. And getting it will be a big shot in the arm for the organization and our move towards peace, our thought process towards peace. More and more people, our own people need to start believing that, yes, we are working towards peace. Only then will we be able to become far more stronger in espousing peace and working with other organizations. I am absolutely a person who believes in partnerships. Alone, we cannot do anything. We may be 1.2 million, but we still need more people to bring in something on the table, just as we have done for polio eradication. We have Bill and Melinda Gates, we have Gavi, we have UNICEF, we have CDC, all of these people, and of course WHO. But for them being with us, and all the governments of the world, had they not partnered with us, I don't think we would have been able to do. And if there is a partnership that we have to, after all, we have played a part in the formation of the UN at that time, I think we should have a continued relationship at a much higher level, a deeper relationship with UN, I feel. What role can women play? The highest and the best. Peace comes naturally more to women. How many people in a war zone do you find are women? They are men. Peace comes far more naturally to women. So all the women who are here, you have to be the harbingers of peace. You have to talk of peace more than the men do.
Love that. Love that. Yes. Okay, Lori.
President-elect Shekhar, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and your inspirational actions. What role does environmental degradation and climate change play in conflict, and how can Rotary's new area of focus, protecting the environment, impact peace and the other areas of focus? Thank you.
So they say the Third World War will be fought for war, not for oil. So that is the answer. I mean, if we do not care for the environment, the space that we have on the earth will become problematic, and people will fight for natural resources. We need to protect our environment. We need to take care of our rivers. We need to ensure that there is water and there is equitable distribution of it. Anarchy comes when the people who do not have, when the have-nots come to an edge and they find that now there is no way out, that's when they revolt. And this could be for money, it could be for resources. So imagine if there are no resources at a place and there is no water, and water is one of the biggest resources it's something that people cannot live without, and it is something which is getting scarce day by day. We don't realize it. One of the biggest changes of climate would be scarcity of water. Just because you and I just open a tap and we get water, but there are parts of the world where women or men have to walk for a few kilometers just to get a pail of water. I mean, that's what it is. So before that anger of those people, when they see what happens, there is a person who has nothing, who doesn't have even proper clothes to wear, and sees the other person changing clothes 5 times in a day. Over a period of time, it all boils down into that person's heart, and there comes a time when that person revolts. Probably a better equitable distribution is extremely important, and so is for resources. And by resources, I mean all environmental issues. So I'm very happy that Rotary has taken up environment as the 7th area of focus. Of course, we were already doing things in environment, whether we were educating children about environment, it was coming under basic education literacy. When we were doing wash in schools, we were creating facilities of environment, after all, for the children there. Otherwise, they would have to, they did not have toilets in schools, imagine. So we were doing, but now there will be a focused approach towards it. Things like not using plastic or lesser use of plastic, using solar lights, using natural energy rather than oil, gas, etc. I think all of these things, these are just beginning years. This is the first year we'll be focusing on environment issues. But I think it will have a great impact, because here there is no rich country, no poor country. The entire world is affected by climate change.
Exactly, exactly. Michael Walsh, go right ahead.
Thank you, Shekhar. I work in the field of global citizenship and have been in the space for about 10 years, including working with globalcitizen.org, the great nonprofit in New York. And what my project is about, and several other parallel projects, is about the concept of creating an online permanent digital identity for individual sovereignty, and then an entire suite of services that can be added after that. And those other organizations include ID 2020 and the World Identity Network. What have you learned in this space, and what do you think about this concept of a global citizen network for individual sovereignty and getting basic needs met through it?
If there was any time for such a thought, it is now. And probably the silver lining is because of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, our virtual world wasn't so strong. You and I were not meeting like this, but today we can. Earlier, when you did not see face to face, when I did not see you, or I did not see Barbara or Richard Denton or Melanie, it was a different thing altogether. But when we see each other, and see so frequently and so fast we can see each other, there is absolutely a possibility for the idea that you have. It's absolutely something workable. Please do it, do it. Somebody needs to take that plunge, and I'm so happy that you are ready to. I like even your name is Global Citizen here.
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. And now we'll go to Alan Harbour, if you could go ahead with your question.
Wonderful to hear you. The Rotary did an international peace conference in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I am, and I'm pleased to be more acquainted. Of the many things I could ask about, I'll add this one little bit into the mix. As you talk about going toward peace, the positive action toward peace, we got to get to peace. Peace is an agreement. And the contribution that I want to offer is that the agreement happens in meeting on a table. You even referred to the table. So at the beginning, just before the end of the Vietnam War, I was involved in making a peace table for the meeting to make peace in the world. Peace Prize winners around it in 1999 at the Hague Appeal for Peace. I think the image we need in our families to make peace, in the schools to make peace, and the politicians to make peace, we need to focus on the table. We go toward getting to the table, but the peace is made on the table, eye-to-eye agreement. And I hope that you would add into your vision, bringing people to the table. And I'll share in the email, the picture of the table. Arthur has seen this too. So I think we need to get past toward the peace, to the agreements, what needs to be agreed, because the powers of the world whose love of power overwhelms the power of love, unfortunately, view that the resources go to domination, to the maintenance of the theft that has enclosed the commons for the last 5,000 years, the whole change of society toward the orientation of the positive peace, accentuate the positive. So at the peace table, bringing the questions to the table, whether they're in your family, in your workplace, in your school, or at the global level. Thank you.
Good thought, Alan. These are thoughts that need to be spread out to other people, that it has to be a table and not necessarily physically. It could be a virtual table. It could be a just meeting of two people and there is there's a table in between them to discuss things. And I mean, to me, there isn't one thing in this world which cannot be settled at the table.
The table is, and coming to it is an act of art as well as an act of politics. And in some way, people need to be part of a creative art of the whole culture, shifting to, well, let's get to the table, let's get to making the peace, let's get to the agreements.
Love it.
Absolutely, and I think Rotary's peace program is creating people who are good at bringing people to the table.
Wonderful. Okay, now it's Odile Harbour, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, what is your specific goal for 2021?
You'll be happy to know it's empowering girls. So that's the overarching goal. So this needs to be taken care of. For some time, if the focus is on the girl, probably it'll bring to, when we start discussing an issue, when we bring it to the table, so to say, people start understanding there are issues. And when there are issues and we discuss it, then people become aware of it and probably they will start thinking a little differently. As far as specific goals are concerned, to me, the specific goals, I have one for growth of membership. But as far as the work of serving people is concerned, I leave it to different parts of the world because one size will not fit all. When I say empowering the girl, empowering girls will mean differently in America than in Africa and very differently in Japan in comparison to in India. So each of these places, empowering a girl would mean differently, and that is left. So we are putting up a menu of things that can be done. Those are the focus points. About 10 items are going to be put, and any of the countries, anywhere a Rotarian could take up a program and project on that and work towards that. But this does not stop us from working towards boys, after all. But the focus would be on empowering girls.
Wonderful, great. Okay, Rudy Westerveld, you're next.
Oh, thank you. President-elect Shekhar, it's so great to be with you today. I'm past district governor from District 5330 here in Southern California. And I want to thank you for, in general, for Rotary's leadership and adding on a Fergal McCarthy in charge of peace of Rotary International, a Summer Lewis that's working with the IEP program, Bill Rintz, who now has pulled together that Rotary Alumni Association. Of all of us are so proud of our Peace Center alumni and Peace Fellows out there. How do we continue to grow this network and use our Rotary talents? Because we have a tremendous amount of knowledge in Rotarians out there in all sectors of society to solve all these problems together, because we've got former Peace Corps members, we've got engineers, we've got all these kind of people together. And we know that with climate change coming, we're gonna have more people migrating because of that, displaced homes, than we are from conflict. How do we leverage our Rotary talent and create a database besides our cadre for our grants? How do we leverage that and really make a real huge movement in the world?
Great question, and I'm happy to provide you 2 vehicles for that. How do we go about it? I'll just give you, it so happens that those vehicles were already created, and I'm just going to share it with you. One of them is the 7 presidential conferences that are going to take place around the world. And these are going to be on any of the areas of focus. At least 2 areas of focus have to be there. So they're going to be one in Korea, Korea, Philippines, India, Mozambique, Italy, US, and Brazil. So in every part of the world, each of these places, they're going to discuss something or the other amongst the areas of focus. So where there is water scarcity, I'm sure they're going to discuss about water issues. Each of these areas of focus, any work that Rotary does, it works towards positive. Secondly, you say there are so many experts. I know here, I just saw Bryn Stiles is there, who's been a champion on peace issues. He's headed the peace centers. He happens to be such a dear friend of mine and is helping me so much in my journey as president. There are so many other people who are, I know Richard Denton is strongly committed to this cause, and each of you, otherwise you wouldn't be here at this meeting. Saloni, Gule, and so many others. All of us could keep going to one of these and start sharing our thoughts. So there is going to be, the last one is dedicated specifically for peace. The one which is just going to be before the convention at Houston. So the pre-convention event is a presidential conference only on peace. I would invite each and every one of you to please join. You know, all of this starts at a discussion. And when together we come and start discussing, and you heard me a little while back, for me, no meeting is a good meeting till I can move into action with it. So the idea with all of these 7 presidential conferences is that if there is a conference, let's say on water and peace, then the people in that surrounding area should be working for peace and water issues. If they are working on education, then it should lead to some work of education and major work, not minor work. You heard me say earlier also, our work has to be the process of nation building. That's the level of work that we do. So I would suggest that is one. And secondly, when we want to get more and more people involved with our work, so Rudy, I would suggest to you, go back when you go to your district, ask many other Rotary clubs to participate in the Rotary Days of Service. Now, these are going to be thousands of events across the world where we want to focus on issues. And if you are a champion on peace, then your Rotary Days of Service in your district, maybe 5, 10, 20, 30, could all be discussing issues on peace. Maybe a symposium, maybe a seminar. It all starts with a discussion. And if you could start this in your area, others share this thought with others. And I would say each of you could start a discussion in your area. Tell people about the role that Rotary does as far as peace is concerned. And what is it that the people, the public expect of you? That is exactly the idea. Suddenly 1.2 million can become 2.4 million because we have shared our thought with at least one more. So do attend the presidential conferences and do organize Rotary Days of Service. The presidential conference, specifically the last one, totally focused on peace, will be a great place to have people like you.
We'll be there.
Hooray, perfect. Yay, good. All right, Sala Sweet, if you can go ahead.
Yes, you mentioned somewhere along the way a focus on youth, which is what I'd love to focus on. And there are many good things going on, but how would you magnify that and bring it to our attention over and over again during your presidency, including youth, not just what they are excluded from, but how incredible they are, and the peace scholars and so forth, to bring them forward to tell people what they're doing?
I think we need to leverage the Peace Scholar alumni. They are such a vast pool. I don't know how well have we leveraged their knowledge base back for, in a way I would say they owe a payback to Rotary. A payback to Rotary because Rotary helped them become a Peace Scholar, they can share their wisdom and thought with Rotary. And it could be that the peace conference that I'm telling just before the convention, where there are going to be maybe 1,000 people or more, that will be, you will be seeing at least, if not more, at least 10 peace scholars coming from across the world, sharing their thoughts, what their experiences have been, how has the peace program really helped out. When we hear their stories, I think they'll be inspirational stories if it is backed by good public image creation by each of us. And again, this is something I wish to tell everyone. I think each of us is a brand ambassador for Rotary.
Thank you, because the Peace alums did do a conference this year, and it was wonderful, but I don't know how many people knew about it.
But this time they will know. We'll ensure people will know. At least 1,000 people will come to know, and at least 100,000 will come to know of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, David Newman, please.
President-elect Shekhar, first I want to express my appreciation and gratitude for the very hopeful, inspiring, and encouraging message you have delivered. I am reinvigorated by your leadership. My two questions are, one, would you consider expanding the definition in normal practice of the word all in the four-way test, which is, of course, in relation to who we consider when we decide what we're going to think, what we're going to say, what we're going to do, by applying the four-way test as our own critical analysis. And if you define the word all differently from what we normally do, to mean everyone, everywhere, the wisdom and goodness of our ancestors through their spirits, 7 generations ahead, and sentient and non-sentient beings, would that not be a useful message to convey, so that practice would result in our thinking about global human family and our relationship badly needed to save our world from self-destruction? My second question relates to Rotary at the UN.
So David, two things. One is, ask not what America can do for you, ask what you can do for America. If you have a great thought, which you do, which you just shared with all of us, and remember what I said just now, each of us is an ambassador of the work of Rotary. You have such a great thought. Why don't you start sharing it with everyone? Rotary International does not have to think everything. There is people like David Newman, people like Saloni or Marshall or Brenda here, all of us. You have a great, let's start spreading it. You spread it to me, I spread it further. It goes to hundreds and thousands of people, and a thought then starts emerging. I like what you said. So please share it with others. To your second question, please.
I am doing that, and I'm willing to do it anywhere. My second question relates to the UN representation at the United Nations, which is underutilized very consciously with our 32 representatives limited mandate. But in relation to education, which is very important to you, and integrating peace education in school systems around the world, the agency which Rotary played a large part in creating way back in 1942 is UNESCO. And UNESCO has 196, I believe, commissions around the world in different countries. They have the relationship with the education systems in those countries. I can say that District 5550 in my district in Canada, I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, has a relationship with the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. And we're looking at an MOU relationship with them to begin a process of spreading this concept of integrating positive peace and peace literacy education in K-12 schools around the world through Rotary district relationships. I had understood there might have been a MOU announced in Paris, France in March. Peter Kyle was well briefed by me about UNESCO, and nothing materialized. My question is Rotary International prepared to reinvigorate the aspirational role of UNESCO through its influence at the United Nations and work with them in partnership to build and integrate this kind of peace education in our school systems worldwide?
Absolutely. And I tell you, we are doing just that in India. We first created the vehicle to take anything that we wish to 100,000 schools, 200,000 schools. As I mentioned to you, the literacy program that we've started, or did I mention it to you? Yeah, I did. I keep going from one Zoom call to the other. I don't know where I spoke what, but I think I spoke here itself also. So we've created this vehicle where we are, if tomorrow I want to reach out to 250 million children, it would take me just a half-an-hour episode to be created and beamed to all these people. Similarly, what you mentioned just now, if there could be something that could be created, just like somebody told me a little while back, whom I said, just send me an email and put me on to the gentleman who's already worked on such a peace curriculum. So if there is a peace curriculum that can be developed along with UNESCO, I think it will be a great idea, and it is something worthy of being shown, translated in different languages, and that's where Rotarians can help out. So in Congo, the local language, the Rotarians in Congo can do it. In Bolivia, the Rotarians in Bolivia could do it. In Kenya, the Kenyan Rotarians could do it. In India, the Indian Rotarians could do it. So if there is, and let me tell you here, I would seek some advice from amongst you on another call, not just now, people who are well connected with UN and could guide me and advise me on how to make our relationship with UN very strong. I would be very happy to do that and take it forward. So just write to me, somebody who will be able to help out in developing a partnership with UN on a much larger scale in different areas.
Perfect. All right. Ellen Hayakawa, you're next.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shekhar, for all your work. I do have a connection, and it's really connected to the work that you've been doing with Dr. Chandra Sankaratri in Andhra Pradesh, whose family died in the Air India crash. And he went on to, in the spirit of peace, to establish a school and an eye hospital, and also relief, in emergencies, disaster relief. And so I've helped him to raise funds here in Canada. The part of my story is that my grandfather's youngest brother and his family, my grandfather's youngest brother, was within 500 meters of the hypocenter of the Hiroshima bomb and survived. Sorry, I'm just.
I can understand.
Yeah,
I can understand.
So he survived that, and so did his wife and his child. And in some sort of miracle state, as she was walking through what, of all time has been hell on earth, she actually found her husband walking through the street. So there's, miraculous stories that also, my own family was incarcerated in a concentration camp here in Canada as Canadian citizens, and my American family, so it was my grandfather's, one of his brothers and his family were living in the US, and so they actually dropped the bomb on their family. So I've had to think a lot about what nationhood actually means. And having been raised here, I was always taught we were on the right side. And at some point I said, what does that all mean? So in this particular phase of my life, I have a vision that I think is really practical. It's called Spirit Holding Land, and it's putting together 360 eco-spiritual retreat centers, communities, and lands from around the world. And part of its purpose is really, and it includes microfinancing, again, the projects, the not-for-profit projects, which people would be participating in within this network, also opens the channels for funding to flow to not-for-profits in economically developing countries, or projects like, Dr. Chandra's project. For example, that's where, when I visited India, I got that sort of idea. And in the far-reaching vision of that world citizenship, it's all about taking land out of the current colonial model that we have pretty much worldwide, that is not democratic, that does not work for most of the people in the world, and to really address what is the problem. People fight wars over land. People feel like once they have their nation, they have to defend their nation. But what did that mean to my family? They were loyal to all the, whatever country they were in or born into, they were loyal to that country. But we also have an ancestral heritage. So I'm just wondering if there's a place where somehow, Spirit Holding Land can support Rotary in its work. I'm relatively new to, what Rotary does, and whether there might also be some place where Rotary International might be willing to collaborate on this project that I believe will leave a legacy for generations to come and does solve many, many challenges that we're having in our road to peace on the planet.
First of all, Ellen, I understand your agony. I can understand what you've gone through. If people have been at the epicenter, they can, and if they have been able to survive, it's miraculous, absolutely. And you should be fortunate that at least there was miraculous saving of somebody there. And I deeply appreciate your thought process of trying to do something. Do send me an email and let's see what how Rotary can partner, if at all. Let me understand it a little more, and definitely. And the more I think of what you are saying, people keep fighting about land. A major fight is about land. And suddenly it strikes me what Michael probably, global citizen, is your name Michael?
Yeah, Michael.
Yes, it's Michael. Thank you.
Okay, Michael. So, but nobody would fight if we were in the air. Would people fight with us? Imagine we do not want any land, but we are people, global citizens who are not fighting for land. But as you said, sovereignty in the air. And I have not even given it a thought. I've just gathered what Michael said and what you are trying to say. People still fight for land, but as of now, there is no war for space in the air. And there could be a community of maybe 100,000 people, 1 million people. Just the other day, I was trying to see, and you'll be shocked to know, pleasantly shocked to know, that at 1.2 million, Rotary is as big a nation, better than 78 other nations in the world, as far as population. So there are 78 countries in the world out, which is 1/3 of the world's countries. There are 200 plus countries, and 78 means 1/3 of them. So 1/3 of them are less than Rotary's population. So it's a good thought, Michael. Please pursue what you are trying to, and you already maybe, Ellen may be interested. There is little room on earth for people. but there is a lot of room in the virtual world.
Absolutely.
Who knows in future there are going to be virtual sovereign.
The interesting thing about land, I mean, air, earth, water, and fire, indigenous people know and acknowledge that these are all part of the commons and never to be bought or sold. But it's all in this new model. And so all we're doing, I think the name that I received in the vision, it's called Spirit Holding Land. And so it's just really acknowledging that Spirit, God, the universe creator, created the land, and human beings can own buildings. You know, I mean, this project actually addresses the, you know, what we call the homeless, because anyone who was created deserves a home on this planet. And it, you know, it addresses poverty. There's so many things that because of this particular colonial model, which has been a blip in time, that this has created this unjust, really, system for all, you know, for so many people on the planet. And so this is simply returning land, or acknowledging that land is part of the commons, and it's not to go on as being bought or sold or made profit on. And that includes the resources, you know, within the earth, extraction for being able to live simply is what I would say, which most of us, you know, I mean, if we're in a materially developed nation, we don't necessarily know what simply even means. But I believe that the generations and the young people, because I work with children and youth, helping them to find their spiritual wisdom, and in practical ways, the generations of the future, because they have to, because of what we've done to the planet to date, they will be going back to these systems. This is just an early creation of a model that will evolve as their consciousness evolves.
Thank you.
Sure, good thought. Please do write to me. I'll be interested in discussing this with you further.
Thank you, Shekhar. I will.
Thank you, Ellen. That was very powerful, and thank you for sharing your family, and your words are very powerful, and thank you for taking action. Thank you very much. Yes, now we would like to go to Francis Jeffries. Jeff, if you could please go ahead.
Thank you very much. President-elect Shekhar, we cannot thank you enough for being here, but more importantly, for the passion and the commitment and the vigor in your voice, for the permission to speak in that tone. And I believe I would speak for everyone on this call. I hope that the press of your schedule won't temper that in any way, that we'll hear that same vigor. Know that we're standing with you, and just wish you good blessings. I want to go back to your point on, I apologize, I only have the use of one hand today, so I wanted to go back to the conversation we were having about the Rotary Peace Fellows in particular. Look again at the Global Cyber Peace Conference and look at the model that was used to reconceptualize how to deliver conferences. It's easy to get kind of distracted with the word conference, and then you have an image of a conference. But this really took that model and put it in a 24/7 rotation around the world nonstop. And each region then took the areas of focus and planned with its own expertise and own topics. So if it's water in one place, it's not the same in another. The conference was available worldwide. The second was they opened it pretty widely and was very inclusive, and there was no fee. There was a donation, and there were a couple of sponsorship levels, I believe, but just throw it open. I mean, and so every person could be on that when it fit that schedule. It didn't require you to go to a location. It didn't require anything. It accepted us in this way. I'm going to stop there because I could talk all day about that. I think, but I'm not, I'm sort of unpleased that it just gets lumped in as a conference when it was much more than that. So take another look. There is a team planning the second one that will be just the same. They've learned a few lessons. And most of all, they have the lessons of the uses of the technology, not just the technical pieces, but the interactive communication. A small example would be the use of chat rooms and putting people back and forth. So, and finally, still on the Rotary Peace Fellows, they are underutilized. I think we've come a long way in the last 2 years, but we have a long way to go. But I'm both a Peace Fellow and a Rotarian, so I'm speaking with both hats here. Keep in mind that individual was chosen by us to help us fulfill a particular mission. But that individual is also a professional, most likely grossly underpaid and grossly understaffed, probably working alone in a particular organization. So when you invite them, look at them not as owing us something. They want to share, but rather as a professional that's bringing skills and bringing knowledge, but that will put us in a position of having, as we integrate that, having to make significant changes. And those are never comfortable, but it's what we've invited. It's in fact, it's what we've organized and helped them prepare for. Thank you again so much. All our blessings to you.
Thank you, Francis. You gave me a great thought, let me tell you. This Global Cyber Peace Conference, I will look up, but I would be happy if you could write and send me some links to it and a little more detail. This is something very exciting. I'm already, my mind is already starting to think of things that could be done. And this is such a powerful concept. Great idea.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we're getting ready to close pretty soon. We have a few more questions. Kolavanu, Chad, if you could go next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Yeah, good evening to our Rotary International President-elect, Shekhar Mehta ji. Yeah, Andhra Pradesh. My question to you is, first of all, I want to thank you because you are giving us a lot of inspiration, and the way you are, answering each and every question with so much of keen and so much of, clarity. I'm really delighted. Thank you, sir. And my question is that if somebody is having in front of him a lion, and somebody tells him that you be cool even if the lion is approaching him, how it is difficult for that person to be cool. In the same manner, in this world, which is filled with so much of mass destructive weapons, particularly the nuclear weapons existing in many of these nuclear armed countries, and then we want to create peace, I find that it's very difficult to create peace when such mass destructive weapons are lying everywhere. And those, particularly those countries which are the permanent members of United Nations, and they are seeing for others to not to, accumulate or not to make those nuclear weapons, but they possess them and they keep doing on them, increasing the technology, increasing them. How I want to know Rotary International is going to, really work to see that those things are eliminated. If they are not eliminated, or if they are lying around, how difficult it is to really bring peace into this world. Particularly, I also have a question that a country like China, which is about 18% of the total population, which is close to 1/5 of the world's population, And I find surprisingly, you might be also finding it surprisingly that these people are very decimally representing onto the Rotary International or into many other forums. How without their participation, whether we can really make our dreams of making peaceful planet happen. In order to happen, it is necessary for everybody to participate into that, particularly a country like China. I don't find most of the meetings, never I find China, really I feel a bit, disappointed for that. So these are my two questions to Shekhar Mehta ji.
Sure, with each of your questions, it's such a great learning for me. I'm getting, suddenly you tell me something and my mind quickly moves on to something else to try and think, wow, this is a great idea that can be put to use. So let me first start. For a long time, we haven't had some humor. Let me start with some humor. Okay, you said when there is a tiger, what can you do? So somebody asked this question, you're going into the jungle, when the tiger comes, what will you do? He said, what will I do? Whatever is to be done, it will be done by the tiger. Okay, but that's humor aside. It's a matter of David and Goliath. Whoever thought that David would be able to pull down Goliath or Goliath, whichever way you may pronounce it. So, but that's what it is. It is an uneven fight. I agree. The strongest of nations are who have highest amount of weapons.
Yes.
But just because the journey is tough, we won't take up the journey. I don't think that's what we want to do. We realize it's an uphill task. Having got into a position, I hope and wish nobody ever will use it again. But they want to have it just because somebody else has it.
Yes.
Knowing fully well you aren't going to use it. Imagine all that money to be spent on literacy, education, all that money to be spent on agriculture, to be spent on water, sanitation facilities for the world. This world would be great, absolutely. There would be no disparity. But what you said is the reality, but that I don't think somebody says, I don't agree that the country with most weapons is criminal. I did not say they are criminals. No, not at all. My own country has weapons. I don't think my country is criminal. We've never ever in our history attacked any country, always been attacked. But that's a different thing. What I'm saying is the most powerful of the countries are the countries who have these weapons. And we are wanting that people should not have weapons. The lesser weapons, the better it is for the world. I agree. I don't have an answer to your question, how to deal with it. But if there is darkness around, the only thing I can do is light a lamp. And let me do my share. Let me light my lamp. Chand, you light yours. Let Francis light hers. Ellen has to light her. Her lamp is going to be different from my lamp. Michael's lamp is going to be different. Who knows, all these lamps when lit together, someday they'll remove the darkness. Goodwill will come. And I'll tell you, it's nature who will probably bring us back somewhere. Did this pandemic not give us some of the biggest lessons of our lives? Suddenly we have realized that minimalism is possible in life. I never stayed in my city over the last 11 years. I have not stayed for 11 days continuously in my city. And now for 11 months, I haven't stepped out of my city. What was unimaginable, unthinkable is happening now.
Yes.
Who knows, such things which occur because of nature may suddenly revolutionize things. And let's keep our fingers crossed for that.
I love that. Let's light our lights. Yes. And now we have two last questions. We have Leslie Peterson. If you can go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. First of all, Arthur, thank you very, very, very much for putting all of this together. This is phenomenal. And Shekhar, and everyone actually, so many things have been discussed in so many different topics, you know, peace, nuclear war, hunger, housing, education, and what's dear to my heart is children, which is why I'm coming forth with some questions and asks from everyone out there. I have been called out of retirement 2.5 years ago to rebuild and rejuvenate desolate areas in US cities via education, via housing, community centers, and employment for the children of God and for children, period. And I would love to collaborate with you, Shekhar, and anybody else out there who has best practices, who has pilot programs for education to bring forth the embracement of peace at a soulful level to our children, because our children are going to be the next generation of what happens for the future. We are, yes, trying to fix all of the problems that we've created, but it's going to be the children that continue anything that we possibly start to bring forth a better planet. And within, like, you know, we're bringing in emotional learning programs and housing for transitional, for homeless and transient people through transitional housing, and then permanent housing. And I'm going to be providing people who actually make change for their community, the opportunity of buying their house and sell to be homeowners instead of renters for the rest of their lives. In our community centers, we're going to be having sports and music and arts and choir, right, and vocational skills training and certification and Bible study and support groups and family resource centers and whatnot, to provide a safe haven for these children and families and community to rebuild their lives and to clear out all the emotional, spiritual, and physical abuse that they've received from their environment, so they can actually grow up to be who they were born to be. Mm-hmm. And if there is anybody out there, and I would love to speak with you, Shekhar, and a couple of the other people that are talking about education and kids, because my definition of kid is from birth to death. But I am focusing on K through 12 because that's where the education, we can get the development process in. But the community centers and the housing, all of that's based around people and human lives and creating an old soul community. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, Shekhar, on what you have done, what you plan on doing, and what you know that's out there that could be of assistance to bringing forth some more additional best practices. I've already, since this video, I've already reached out to the president and the chair of Houston's, because Houston is our first city. It's called Hope Houston, and reached out to those Houstonian Rotarians so that they can possibly participate in this one pilot program. But we do plan on taking this nationwide, worldwide, and I would love to share anything and everything with whoever wants to make change out there.
I would love, absolutely. I too feel working on the minds of the children is the best thing that we can do. If peace is to be brought in, as I said earlier also, peace won't come into this world in just one generation. It may take 2-3 generations, but somebody will have to start lighting that lamp, and we need to do it now with the children, because they are going to be the trustees of posterity for us.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Melanie, for letting me ask a question for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's been so fantastic. Their questions have been great, and the answers fantastic as well. And we'd like to go to Salani.
Thank you so much. Namaste, Shekhar Dada. What I feel is, if we present what Rotary Peace Fellowship really means on a platter to the regional, local, grassroots levels, where people are driven by the issues that are really taught in the classrooms of our Peace Fellowship centers, because Peace Fellowship program is one of its kind. It is not even available with one of the best universities of this world. And yet we have just 6 of them. We are lucky on this earth, there are at least 6 of them, but but it's time, I think we should regionalize, localize, and more so popularize them so that it is made more palatable to the local understanding and the local requirement.
So I understand, Saloni, what happens is what these scholars learn at these institutions is not necessarily localized issue. They understand the general practice on how to resolve conflicts, let's say, how to deal with situations where people are not ready to come to a table, as Alan mentioned. So they learn the theory of it, and then their work field is the entire world. Somebody goes and works in Africa, somebody in South Asia, somebody works in America, somebody works in South America, and they tend to use their knowledge based on the requirements of the local area.
Yes.
I would be happy. Somebody proposed to me a few days back, why not have a virtual university and a peace scholarship virtually? You don't need a physical presence at one place. Maybe that's a great thought to take forward. We could have the best minds from across the world coming over together and start with a forum. Who knows? It'll take just a few years for it to become a virtual university.
Love it. Wonderful. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for your questions. This concludes our Q&A. If you would like to save the chat, down below, you'll see in the chat area, there's 3 dots, and you can just click on that, save the chat, so get all this great information that we have in the chat. And now we would like to go back to Arthur. Arthur, take it away.
This has been just an extraordinary conversation. Everybody here, and you've been extraordinary. You also mentioned that Rotary has more citizens than 1/3 of the nations of the planet.
Yes.
I think this is the beginning of evolving what Garry Davis in the movie that we made commended called the people-powered planet. It's what we're talking about in this poster. It's people from the bottom up getting together and doing the tools of governance. I mean, what is Rotary doing? It's what traditionally governments would do. You know, we provide services, we bring people, we solve problems. Well, we're all doing it now. We're all part of the governance of planet Earth. And Rotary is a primary, wonderful example of how citizens can take the lead to fulfill this and to bring our planet together. So I'm so happy you're doing these peace conferences. Rudy, who's a part of this, spoke to you earlier, helped bring together a wonderful peace conference. I think this is just the beginning of an engagement where we get a vital conversation of the people of the planet going. And I do want to say that if anybody wants to see the movie you mentioned, it's going to be on public broadcasting across the US in April, but we are offering a special pre-screening, theworldismycountry.com/public-TV, and you'll be able to see the movie and actually be a part of it.
We're looking for sponsors. If you want your name on television, or you know someone who would like to have their name on television, public television for 3 years, it's beautiful. Go to that /public-TV and you'll see how it looks, and you'll see how to do it. And it would be wonderful to have you as a sponsor and have your name, have yourself recognized on television. So go ahead and do that.
Organization, your Rotary Club.
Yeah.
Your URL could be up there in television to a huge demographic of people on public TV who are interested in world citizenship. I also want to just wish that everybody, we had so many wonderful guests, and I want to especially invite you all to actually go to that People Powered Planet podcast and scroll down and actually join our club. If you possibly can, you'll have many exciting speakers. You'll get not only to hear the speakers, you'll get to have these special once a month, just informal meetings where we get together and have a social with each other. You'll get to be part of a club of people working to help solve the problems of the world. So do be solutionaries and join our club. Thank you so much. I then now want to turn it over to you for any last parting words.
Thank you very much. Thanks to each and every one of you. Your questions, as I said earlier, were not questions, they were advice to me. I've learned a lot discussing so many things. It's given me some bright ideas, your ideas, which I'll take it up, use some of my thoughts, come back to some of you do write to me, whoever wishes to discuss on this. The subject today was Imagine the Future We Want. I'm so happy that each of us wants a future where we all live in peace rather than live in pieces. So it's very important that each and every one of us works towards whichever way we can. Somebody will work towards positive peace. Somebody will create awareness about it. Somebody will do some activism about it. Somebody will do some partnerships about it. All these different ways will together merge, and I'm sure each of us will be lighting a lamp by doing that. Someday, sometime, this darkness of a warring world will be taken over by the lamps that we all light up. Let's keep lighting our lamp. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Wow. That's
I see
beautiful.
that Asha's back. Do you want Asha to have one last question and then we will close and thank everybody?
Yes, Asha, go ahead.
You know, Arthur, the meaning of Asha in India is hope. Hope has to have the last word.
Thank you so much, Shekhar, for this inspirational speech. I've been listening to your couple of speeches, and I'm really inspired by you. I'm a Rotary Peace Fellow and now a Rotarian. So interested and inspired by the work of Rotarians across the world. My question is regarding, inclusion and diversity within the Rotary. How can we bring, people from different sectors like, youth, women, whether it is other, other people from across the world. How can we have like a diversified and inclusive group of people? And the second is, of course, like many people have asked about it, how can we work together with UN for peace at the global level? So because Rotary is such an organization and we are not utilizing or we are not understanding the power of the organization, and how can we influence world leaders in peace and development around the world? Those are my two questions, and I am really thankful for all what you're doing, and I'm really excited to work with all the other Rotarians across the world for a peaceful world. Thank you.
Wonderful, Asha. Working on UN, I myself have sought help. I would be extremely happy to work at the highest level possible as far as the UN is concerned. It is something that we need to do, and let us do it as fast as we can. The other question is on DEI. I was surprised that any talk on peace, how could it have ended without a discussion on DEI? There isn't one meeting that I go out of without discussing on DEI. It has become, and so that shows, the power of dialogue. As I said, if I've had 3 meetings on Zoom today, each of them has discussed DEI. It wasn't so 10 months back, let me tell you. But suddenly the world is talking about DEI, and when you start talking of the problems, and then you start finding out the solutions. For the first time again, Rotary has come out with a statement on DEI. And I'll tell you, if you wanted to ever see gender diversity, see the board that I'll be chairing next year. There are, out of the 19 people on the board, 9 of them are women. That's the best you can get. Either 9 men or 9 women is what you can get best. Slowly, as far as Rotary itself is concerned, its organization, its structure is concerned, women are taking positions of leadership. Please also understand that there is a gestation period for any position, any higher position in Rotary, and they do take time. And since when women have got to become members of Rotary, this gestation period is now getting over. Now you'll find more and more women in positions of leadership. If I just now look at this first screen, I find the numbers are equally, if not a little skewed towards women. They are participating in everything. And again, you saw for me, the focus next year is on empowering girls, because at times it is only in words that we talk about it. In practice, it's not happening. And we know in various parts of the world, and I can understand, Asha, you must be from somebody who has roots in India or had roots in India or is from India. I would not know what it is. But if you are from there, you understand the discrimination or the disadvantage, probably because of lack of education in some communities, because of culture, because of historical background, etc. So we need to work first on the gender diversity and every diversity. Rotary per se as an organization is taking great efforts, let me tell you, as far as DEI is concerned. When I set up all the committees, I did ensure that there is a good representation, not just from the US, but from South America, from Africa, from Asia, from Philippines, Japan, Korea, Australia, every country, from Europe. For every committee, I looked into this aspect. Are we ensuring that there are people from every part of the world? Because that's what Rotary's beauty is. We all come from different parts of the world, yet we are talking of peace. Yet we are talking of building homes. We are talking of bringing water, sanitation. In fact, we are talking of bringing sanity to this world.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for challenging us all to imagine, and then out of what we imagine, create the world we choose. I want to remind everybody that if you want to hear, for instance, Asha's story of how she stopped a bloody war between two tribes, you can go to our People Powered Planet podcast and hear our podcast with her. You can hear Rudy, you can hear Barbara. A number of the people who've spoken here are also on the podcast. And you'll also hear other extraordinary speakers upcoming. Oh, and you'll hear the Global Citizen Talk. And we have two extraordinary global citizens coming up in the next 2 weeks. We have Bufo, who's been working on there are 50 million stateless people in the world. How do we give them some identity, a digital identity, and move it forward? The World Service Authority that Garry started has pioneered in that. And we have speakers on the virtual nation. How do we create this digital community we're developing into kind of a virtual nation? You mentioned nation building and world building. So thank you so much, everybody. Do go to peoplepoweredplanet.com, and that'll take you to our club page. Join us this week and every week, and we will continue this extraordinary thing. And thank you, Shekhar, for staying up so late. And then hopefully this will just be the beginning of working in an interactive way with all these extraordinary Rotarians around the world to build the future of our dreams, the people-powered planet.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.